this person right here on screen. She is saying you have no rights except for those that I allow you to have. Because at any time, for any reason, I can declare an emergency and take them away. New Mexico officials call for governor's impeachment after firearms restriction. So remember when I asked you during yesterday's video that I put out, if this is real, if this is not like a joke? I guess it is real. Democratic governor's emergency order restricts carrying firearms for at least 30 days amid spate of gun violence. And there is a huge problem with this, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I don't understand why it is that these lawmakers think that it's okay to blatantly violate the Constitution, to put out an order that is 100% unlawful, and they make it legal by edict. Let me explain to you really quick, for those of you that don't understand what I just said, that she put out an order that's unlawful but makes that order legal by edict. How can you make something legal when it's unlawful? When you make something legal, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't mean that it's lawful. For example, she just made it legal in her state for police officers or state troopers, whatever it may be, to go ahead and violate your rights, even though it is unlawful according to the Constitution of the United States of America, the law of the land. So she just made it legal, even though it is unlawful. So legal and lawful are two different things. And again, I will say this, that it is going to be up to the police and law enforcement in that state to tell her, no, this is not constitutional. How in the world can law enforcement go along with this when they themselves know, ladies and gentlemen, that it is the criminals who will keep their firearms and the law-abiding citizens that will be forced to turn them in? Because a criminal, by virtue, does not follow the law. Does this not make sense? But anyways, I am very happy to hear that someone is taking action immediately. And for those of you that are not up to date with what was going on in New Mexico, from my understanding, there was some kind of shooting and some young people got hurt, and that is tragic. It always is, no matter if you're young or old, if it was a shooting or a car accident or a house, it doesn't matter. Death is tragic no matter when it happens, and especially when it happens before the end of your natural life, meaning that you didn't die of old age and people are saying, well, at least he or she lived a long life. We all can understand and agree with that death is tragic, all right, ladies and gentlemen, but an inanimate object is not the problem. Take a look at how much medication we take here in the United States of America. This may have changed, but a while back, I did a bit of research, and I think just from looking around that things may be even worse now. But that the United States of America is the country that uses the most pharmaceutical drugs. And a lot of drugs that affect your mental status. But anyways, let's read on. New Mexico State Representative Stephanie Lord and John Block are calling for the impeachment of Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. I'll say her name today because now people need to know this name in order to say we need to get this person out of office. Why? Because where does it stop, ladies and gentlemen? Where is it going to stop? You know, I was watching yesterday's video that I put out yesterday on this same subject, and I was like, man, AP, you're getting way too emotional about this. And I started to think to myself, you need to calm down. Right? First of all, I don't need my blood pressure going up. But then I told myself, like, no, we have to be emotional about things like this because these acts directly affect our freedom. Even if it's not happening in Alaska, we have to talk about it. We have to share this information. I think I'm going to do a live stream later on today. Maybe not. I'll put it out a few hours before talking about just that. Putting out these types of information and how much more difficult it's going to get. But I digress. So I told myself, no, there are some things that you have to get emotional about. When it comes to freedom, when it comes to a person being to live their lives by their own grit, instead of being told what to do minute by minute of every single day, and then a person like this coming along telling you, you have no rights. This is what people don't understand for the majority, is that this person right here on screen, she is saying, you have no rights except for those that I allow you to have. Because at any time, for any reason, I can declare an emergency and take them away. What's going to be the next emergency, ladies and gentlemen? That it's too hot outside? And that you can't get out of your house or use your vehicle or turn on your AC because it adds heat to the outside? Just think of all of the reasons that they can come up with to take away your rights one by one. And then in turn, build a society where people are not accustomed to having rights, but being allowed to exercise rights. Very dangerous and slippery slope indeed. All of this talking, and I've only gotten through like the first sentence and a half. Anyways, some representatives of that state, New Mexico, are calling for impeachment of this governor because she suspended the right to carry firearms in public in and around Albuquerque, the state's largest city. It just makes sense, doesn't it, ladies and gentlemen? These people are nuts. The governor on Friday issued an emergency order suspending the right to carry firearms in public across Albuquerque and the surrounding county for at least 30 days. Amid a spat of gun violence. This is an abhorrent attempt at imposing a radical progressive agenda on unwilling populace, or on an unwilling populace, rather than addressing crime at its core. The governor is restricting the rights of law-abiding gun owners, the statement from Lord read, and that is 100%. Criminals do not follow the law. Who in the world cannot understand that? You don't have to be educated. You don't have to be a governor. I have an associate's degree, ladies and gentlemen, a 2-year college degree in general education. I have no discipline, meaning that I didn't go for engineering. There's a 2-year college degree in general education. That's it. I went to high school for 2 additional years. And I can understand the basic fundamentals of restricting rights from one group of people because another group will not adhere to those laws that you're passing, or rules, whatever it may be. And listen to this. Violators could face civil penalties and fine up to $5,000, she said. Incredible. And under the order, people are still allowed to travel with concealed firearms from one point to another, like to certain, they say, to some private locations, such as a range or a store, provided that the firearm has a trigger lock or some other container or mechanism that makes it impossible to discharge. Then what good is that firearm, ladies and gentlemen? I remember, let me tell you a quick story, and I know I'm all over the place, but I'm sorry, this is just my style. Maybe this is why I don't get any views anymore, but that's okay. I remember when I was in the military, I was getting in a helicopter. Right? We were in the middle of nowhere somewhere in Afghanistan. I think it was Zambar, District Zambar, something like that. But anyways, this Special Forces guy, he sits right next to me. And I can tell he's a Special Forces guy because he had long hair, he had a mustache, beard. You know, he was in uniform, but without any name tags or any kind of like stuff. And he had his M9 Beretta, right? And I noticed that he was sitting right next to me, and I noticed that his sidearm was on fire, right? It was hot. And I was like, excuse me, sir, but your firearm is on fire. You know, you don't have the safety on. He said, boy, he just like that. He said, boy, that thing ain't going to shoot if it's unsafe. And I just started laughing. And I said, you're 100% right. What good is a firearm going to be to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you're transporting it in a box with a lock on it? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself if you have a firearm, for example, let's say inside a home. I'm all for safety, trust me, but I think that safety mainly comes through education. I really do. But that's just how I feel. You can feel different. In a home, if you have a safe and you have every single firearm in that safe locked away, and you have the ammunition put in a separate box, not even inside the firearm or inside magazines, and you have that firearm with a lock going through it and all that fancy stuff, right? What are you going to do when someone breaks into your home? Call the cops? You know that the cops are minutes away when seconds count. And that little saying right there is not just a saying, it's true. It's 100% true. Even a police officer would tell you that. What are you going to do? Under a time of stress that you hear someone knocking down your door, you're going to go and try to open that safe? Not a Liberty safe, just a safe. Is that what you're going to do? Try to hope that you can get that safe open in time to take that lock off of your firearm and then load a magazine, load the firearm, and then get ready to fight? Because, ladies and gentlemen, anyone that wants to break into your home, they're going to break into your home one way or another. The question is how fast are you going to be ready to fight that fight? And people may be saying, oh, AP, you make it sound like we live in Mad Max. Have you seen what's going on around our country, ladies and gentlemen? Have you seen what's been going on around our country? And it says here that that governor acknowledged that not all law enforcement officers were all on board with her decision. And she says, I welcome the debate and fight about how to make New Mexicans safer, she said. Flanked by leading law enforcement officials, including the district attorney for Albuquerque area during that conference that she had. Those two gentlemen, I'm not even going to call them gentlemen, those two people, the two guys that were next to her in that conference that were supporting her blatant violation of the Constitution of the United States, one in which they swore to uphold, should be ashamed of themselves, and they themselves ought to be impeached, or they ought to resign, or they ought to be fired, whatever it is. They themselves ought to be gone. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, criminals all over that area, Albuquerque I think it is, and the surrounding counties, all over that area in New Mexico, are celebrating. Criminals are celebrating, going, oh my goodness, we're going to have 30 days of free reign. We're going to be able to do whatever we want, because we know there's not enough police officers. And here it says that the Bernalillo County Sheriff John Allen said in a statement late on Friday that he has reservations about the order, but is ready to cooperate to tackle gun violence. Shame on you, willing to cooperate with a tyrant. Do you all remember a time in history where people were willing to cooperate with a tyrant just because they were adhering to orders? While I understand and appreciate the urgency, the temporary ban challenges the foundation of our Constitution, which I swore an oath to uphold, said Allen. This is the guy that just said, I am willing to cooperate to tackle gun violence. You do not cooperate with tyrants, sir. I am wary of placing my deputies in positions that could lead to civil liability conflicts, as well as the potential risk posed by prohibiting law-abiding citizens from their constitutional right to self-defense. Maybe I spoke too early. He said he's willing to cooperate, so I'm not sure how much shame we should place on this guy after reading this quote. I haven't read this article yet, ladies and gentlemen, but in one stance, it sounds like he's going to go ahead and follow orders because of an ideology. That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. Following orders because of an ideology. And then here in the second part, just going over it in the raw with you, ladies and gentlemen, it sounds like he says, well, I don't want to put my deputies or myself in a position where we can get sued because we are going against the Constitution. Not because it's the Constitution and it says it's your natural given right to protect yourself, but because, hey, we don't want to get sued. And I'll finish it off with this, ladies and gentlemen. Come back and take a look at this for yourselves if you like. But listen to this. A child's life is taken. The perpetrator is still on the loose. They haven't even caught the person that did this nasty act, all right? It's still on the loose. And what does the governor do? What would you do if you were the governor and this happened under your watch? You have the power of the state police, and you probably maybe don't have the power 100% of the sheriffs or the other law enforcement officers, but I'm sure they listen to you. And I would say that they would probably agree if you said, as the governor, we need to get the person that did this. We need to put him in jail for the rest of his or her life. We need to make sure that we do this for every case just like this. That way, the next time that a criminal that has a firearm and or a knife or anything that is going to hurt an innocent person thinks about doing this, they can pretty much count their lives as null and void because they will be spending it behind bars forever. Imagine if she took a stance against the criminals instead of against the law-abiding citizens.